Well, hey guys, today we're way out in the country walking down an old county road in Yalobusha County, Mississippi. Today we're going to introduce you to the story of the Bell Witch and visit the grave of a lady who had direct physical contact with the witch. Come along with us, let's go explore. I gotta tell you, if we see some chupacabra looking thing off in the woods somewhere, I'm going to do what I can do to hold on to my phone and not throw it, but I will run. If you're really interested in the Bell Witch story, you need to make your way to bellwitch.org. The Bell Witch story is known as America's greatest ghost story. This legend begins with the family of John Bell of Red River, Tennessee. They endured a spiritual haunting between 1817 and 1821. Unlike in the movies, this haunting involved real people and real places. John Bell acquired a farm that consisted of 328 acres in Robertson County, Tennessee. He was also an elder in the Red River Baptist Church. They had 3 children. One day in 1817, Mr. Bell was inspecting his cornfield when he came upon this strange chupacabra-looking animal. It was just sitting in the middle of a corn row. The animal had the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. Bell shot at the animal several times and it disappeared, so he went on home and didn't think any more about it. That evening, Mr. Bell and his family began hearing beating sounds on the outside walls of his house. The sounds returned with increased frequency and were harder and louder each and every night, and the Bell boys and their dad would hurry outside and find nothing. The children began to wake up frightened and would complain of rats gnawing on their bedposts. They would also tell of some invisible entity wadding up their bed covers and tossing their pillows onto the floor. After a while, the Bells began to hear whispering voices. About this time, the Bells' youngest daughter, Betsy Bell, began to have brutal physical interactions with this entity, we'll call it. It would pull her hair and slap her around and often would leave whelps and handprints on her face and body. The family had kept these disturbances a secret, but finally John shared it with his neighbor, James Johnston. Mr. Johnston and his wife spent the night in the Bell home. At first things were quiet. But when they went to bed, the Johnstons' bed covers were yanked off and Mr. Johnston was slapped. After Mr. Johnston yelled, "In the name of the Lord, who are you and what do you want?" things got quiet for the night. The entity's voice got stronger over time and became loud and forceful. It sang hymns, carried on intelligent conversations, quoted scripture, and once it even quoted word for word 2 sermons that were preached at the same time on the same day, 13 miles apart. Word of these demonic encounters spread all the way to Nashville, even to then Major General Andrew Jackson, for he became interested in the Bell Witch. I'm going to just continue the story as we walk up on Betsy's grave. Mr. Jackson and his entourage were traveling to see the Bells in a couple covered wagons, when suddenly they became stuck. Jackson joked and told his friends this must be the Bell Witch. Suddenly, a female voice told General Jackson that they could proceed on and she would see them later that night. Later that evening, one of Mr. Jackson's men pulled out a pistol and bragged that he had a silver bullet, and the witch was surely scared of him. Immediately he began jerking his body in all kind of crazy directions, saying that he was being stuck with pins and beaten severely. And all of a sudden he flew out the front door. Jackson and his entourage were spotted in Springfield early the next morning, on their way back to Nashville, and he was heard to say, "I would rather fight the British at New Orleans than fight the Bell Witch." The encounters stopped happening all the time after Betsy broke off her engagement with a local boy the witch did not approve of. The witch would continually vow to kill John Bell. By 1820, he was confined to his house, and the entity would take his shoes off when he tried to walk and slap his face. John Bell died on December the 20th, 1820. The entity proclaimed to John Jr. that I gave old Jack a big old dose of poison last night, and that fixed him. John Bell had 3 preachers preach his funeral, 2 Methodists and 1 Baptist. As the mourners left the graveyard, the witch began singing a song about a bottle of brandy and did not stop until everyone was gone. Betsy, whose grave you're looking at now, had broken off her engagement to a Joshua Gardner, the man the witch did not like, and repeatedly ordered Betsy not to marry him. Joshua's former school teacher, Professor Richard Bell, had been really interested in Betsy for some time and had told that he wanted to marry her when she became a little older. Powell was a very smart man, and he was 11 years older than Betsy, and also a student of ventriloquism and a student of the occult. Betsy had broken off her engagement with Joshua because of all the harassment the entity was giving the 2 of them. So the witch visited Lucy Bell, John's widow, and told her it was leaving but would return in 7 years. The entity returned in 1828 to John Bell Jr., and it discussed things like civilization and the origin of life and Christianity and the need for a major spiritual awakening. No one ever figured out what it was that tormented the Bell family so almost 200 years ago. But most all who've studied it agree that something is bound to have happened. Her hair was pulled, and Betsy was slapped by the witch, and she was knocked around a little bit at night in her home, and when she and her boyfriend would walk around, they were constantly tormented. As we said earlier, she broke off her engagement to Joshua Gardner, and she married her Professor Richard Powell. Betsy eventually became a homemaker and a mother to 8 children. Only 4 of these children reached adulthood. One son, named Leftrick Reynolds Powell, died at the Battle of Franklin during the Civil War. In 1837, Professor Powell suffered a stroke and brought an end to the Powells' seemingly happy life. After the professor died, Betsy's health declined, mostly because she got fat. She remained in the Cedar Hill area for many years and was known to be witty and very personable. About 1874, she moved to Yalobusha County, Mississippi, and lived here with her daughter Eliza Jane. Elizabeth or Betsy refused to discuss the Bell Witch with people outside of the family, and she always refused to sleep alone. She would sleep between the wall and another person. Elizabeth Betsy Bell Powell died on July 11th, 1888, at 82 years old. She is buried here alongside her daughter and son-in-law. Thank you.